Hello and welcome to Football Manager 2023 Roleplay. This is a project where we create a player using the FM pregame editor. We give him a potential ability of 200 and we watch and see if he'll become the greatest American footballer ever. Unlike many Football Manager videos on YouTube, we will not be managing a club and we will simply observe the progression of this player, Henry Marshall, from the age of 15 to hopefully his eventual retirement. This is a world building exercise where we provide the background for the player and we let the FM23 game engine provide the drama. Before we review the games, let's talk about some of the events of 2024 in our alternate universe. Some things that happened in 2024. The first printed organ for a mammal was completed in testing this year, where its heart was replaced by a printed 3D heart. The mammal survived for 15 days after the transplant, but the organ was not rejected by the animal. This opens up the door for the printing of 3D organs in humans. Also, the first clothing design store opens in New York City. It is a full 3D printing store with the help of on-site designers, and it opens up new worlds in the design of clothing. The new motto for 2024 in high fashion is, if you can think it, you can wear it. And every now and then we want to do a player spotlight to look at Henry's friends and colleagues on Atlanta United. Our player spotlight is on the second highest paid player at Atlanta. And we will look at the list of players here. Excuse me. There he is. Nope, sort him here. There he is. Wilfried Kanga. Now, Kanga is from the Ivory Coast. He was part of PSG's youth system. He has played for the young boys in Switzerland, then Hertha in the Bundesliga before coming to Atlanta. This season, however, his primary appearances are as a reserve. Now, when I try to look at these backgrounds of various players, I try to find out something about Kanga, something interesting. But there is pretty much nothing on the internet about this guy. I mean, the worst thing people say about him is that he dogs it in practice. There he is, Winfried Kanga, international man of mystery. Hey, if he were a new gen, at least I could make something up about him. And now let's look at Atlanta's roster and schedule. United roster. Now July 5th, this is the European transfer season. The whole place is just, lit up in green. A lot of these guys are wanted. Bids have been made on various players. Henry Marshall is asking. He wants a new contract, but no one's tendered a bid for him just yet. And if we look at Atlanta United's schedule, what do we get? When you're now in late January, we get the Leagues Cup coming up in mid-January with the U.S. Open Cup semifinal, and we have a whole bunch of MLS games. And what about Henry Marshall? You see, he does have an injury here, listed as a gashed upper leg, and that one required a couple of stitches. Believe it or not, this is the very first time in Henry's life he's ever had stitches. And as a pro football player, he knows that this is the life where you have to be tough. And when the doctor is stitching it up, you can't even say anything as much as ouch. And however, his colleague, look at that. We'll take a look at that last game here. John Tolkien, and that 3-2 win over Philadelphia. He has a hamstring injury. Tolkien is going to be out for 3 to 6 weeks. So this will give Henry some better chances. He was on the bench for a little while. He'd been put there in favor of Tolkien. And now Henry will recover first. And probably about for 2 to 4 days. And hopefully Henry will see some playing time. And that's it. Let's go ahead and let's start the player engine back. And we'll catch you later. And we are back. We have some really amazing news coming up very soon. But first, we want to look at the next four games that Henry's Atlanta United team is playing. The first one is going to be on July 6th. This is Minnesota United, Atlanta number 6, Minnesota number 8. This ended in a 1-1 tie, but he didn't travel with the team. Henry just stayed home and recovered, had his little boob and recovered. 19-year-old Caleb Riley, he ends up coming in, substituting for him at left back, and has a 6-7 rating for the game. Wilfred Nancy got some good news, and this good news came from Gonzalo Pineda. And Gonzalo Pineda, if you didn't know, he was the coach of Atlanta United that preceded Nancy. And New York Times asked, well, Nancy's doing such a great job, and he said, yeah, he deserves a whole lot of credit for doing what he's doing. It was very kind words. In March of this year, when Nancy's job was under fire, Pineda claimed that he was using Nancy's market a pregame press conference as fuel and for his team, and they beat Atlanta. But in July, here he is. He's praising Nancy for the job he's done at the club. It looks like maybe Winfrey Nancy is finally safe. Maybe the storm is over. Greg Valley, who was a coach at LA Galaxy for a long, long time, he is now going to take over the job at Dallas. And you remember Edwin Mosquera, that Atlanta player, got the offer from Burnley. He has agreed to that offer. Now, at this point of the year, on the feed, he hadn't quite accepted it yet because he didn't have the work permit decision, but he will get that work permit decision. Mosquera will leave the club, 2 goals and 4 assists for Atlanta in 24 total games played. He had a 7.02 rating over those games. Let's go to the game in the 10th. That game was against San Jose, and that was a 1-1 tie game. Atlanta number 6, San Jose number 12. They were playing at home. They were hoping they could win that game. Once again, you've got Caleb Whitney at left back here, has a 6-8 game, and he scores a goal. Marshall is busy left over here watching, riding the bench, unused substitute. And the Marshall looks like now there's some competition on the back line. This, by the way, is the 8th straight home game, MLS home game for Atlanta without a loss. We get some news in the U.S. Open Cup that Atlanta will be facing the New England Revolution. Where the Cup is going to have to go through New England. In the meantime, the U.S. national team going through a lot of drama. Right as rain, the team goes straight to hell. Jim Curtin, he decides to resign immediately from the U.S. national team. Curtin made it to the quarterfinals of the Copa America, and he lost to Brazil 3-1. Tyler Adams ends up taking the captain's armband, as you can see, and Weston McKennie gets promoted to vice captain. Christian Pulisic, I guess that's how his name's pronounced, Pulisic. He was dropped at captain, and Tyler Adams was critical of U.S. soccer. He was critical that Pulisic didn't get enough time, to prove himself. Now, there's a little bit of drama right here building up in Atlanta. Let's see if it's started by a man named Justin Garces. Garces, Dancy thought he was safe. He wasn't. Garces, he is a 23-year-old backup goalkeeper. He went to the press and he said that he wants first team soccer. And this was probably the last straw for Wilfred Nancy, who suffered this kind of stuff going on all year. So Nancy goes to the Atlanta board. He says, I want to be backed up. If the board's unhappy with the way I manage this team, they should speak up. I need the board to back me up, here. And so will the board is the board going to give him what he wants, or are they going to use this as an excuse to pull the trigger on him? In about a week, Atlanta United starts its League's Cup run, and the players on Atlanta United are waiting to hear if the board says anything. So when Nancy escalates, I want the board to back me up. Gar says, says he'll ask for a he'll ask for a transfer. He doesn't want to play anymore. He'll leave at the end of the season. And Henry kind of wonders if this is going to happen to him because his agent, Hunter Alvarez, still hasn't gotten any assurance that Henry's contract is going to be renewed at the end of the year. Now, we're going to get back to, one of these other games, 7-14. This is the one against, let's see if we can find it here. Yeah, the one against Colorado. That game is a late draw. Henry Marshall finally gets his left back position back. And this is a game that Atlanta should have won. Maybe should have won, had a chance of winning it. Excuse me. Rather, this is a game that Atlanta didn't really have much of a chance of winning at all. Lopez was quite lucky in the 86th minute to, tie this game with a late goal for Atlanta United. But now let's talk about, the big news. Now, normally, if you go to your social feed, you'll get subjects to choose to follow. And, since I hoped that our future greatest American player of all time would end up on the U.S. national team, I selected the U.S. national team, obviously, as one of the 20 accounts that's followed. But if you manage these, it tells you how much information you want. You can have minimal, you can have normal, you can have extensive. And I put the USA by mistake on normal. It should have been extensive because I was quite surprised to find out that Henry Marshall is on international duty with the U.S. under-23 team. He is the youngest player on this team. Now, why is he on duty with the under-23 team? Because Henry Marshall is going to the U.S. Olympics. He is going to the U.S. Olympics with the U.S. under-23 team. He's in the group with Morocco, New Zealand, and Turkey. There was a segment on SoccerNet ESPN. Let's see if we can find that segment. Yep, the segment here states that Henry Marshall, we have a good chance of showing. It depends on inverted wingback Henry Marshall and deep lying playmaker Rokas Pukstas. And it talks a little bit about Marshall, some little bit about his background, but he did make an ESPN short segment. So he got his name in front of some media eyeballs here. Pukstas is currently on the under-21 roster for this guy right here. Where is Pukstas? If he's on the under-21 roster for Tottenham. This match, there will be a warm-up match. There will be a warm-up match against the Algeria under-23 team. And then afterwards, they'll travel to the Olympic Village in Paris to compete in the Olympics. And he will be rooming with this guy. Center back, Kenny Perman. We have a new gen, so we can make up a whole bunch of cool stuff about him if we want to. Perman, he is currently contracted to Liverpool. He is with Liverpool's under-21 roster. So this warm-up match against Algeria will take place at St. Louis's Centene Stadium. So this is just going to be practically a get-together with Henry. He can see the Wynn family, who were his host family when he was playing for St. Louis City last year, and he can see his best friend, Jonathan Wynn. Now, we'll go and look at that match here. Get back to our inbox. There we go. Under 23, turn dominance. Not a whole lot of people saw that, but his host family did get a chance to see that warm-up game. It's probably as a favor to Henry Marshall here. Marshall did not play. He came in very, very late in the 86th minute. The USA starters, they had this game, pretty much well under control. In other news, some of Henry Marshall's competition in the back four, John Tolkien. Tolkien, he was made an offer from Toluca, and Toluca is a club in the Liga MX, and they made an $8.75 million transfer rate. He's still considering it, but we'll see what happens here. Atlanta United has accepted the offer. Just depends on John Tolkien taking it. If Tolkien takes it, that means there'll probably be some more chances for Henry to play. Now, as the Olympics comes up and Henry stays a long time away from the club, what we're going to do is we're not going to focus on the MLS as much. We're going to focus entirely on the Olympics. We'll get back to what he's doing in the MLS later. Obviously, he will miss the Leagues Cup. He's already missed the first Leagues Cup game. Atlanta, there's Pumas. He beat those guys 2-1. Atlanta beat them 2-1. There's Caleb Wiley again doing another great job. So we'll come back to the Leagues Cup. We'll come back to MLS. But right now, we want to see what happens to him at the Olympics. Coming back soon. Okay, it doesn't look like we're actually going to get a chance to play in the Olympic Games first, but we're going to set up the goings on in Paris, France. The 2024 Olympic Games are going to be held there at this. This is the newly built Paris Olympic Center. The river in the middle, that's the Seine River. And on your right-hand side, this is where the United States Olympic Village is located. And each participating nation's location is marked with a sign, with a flag, with national colors, all for easy location navigation. Now, the United States doesn't spend all its time at the Olympic Village, of course. It spends time at the training pitch, and they'll be traveling to the stadiums. But whenever they have any downtime, this is where Henry Marshall and his roommate, 18-year-old Kenny Pierman, will be located. The Pierman is one of these rough and tough personalities. Henry noticed was trying to snag as much USA training gear as possible. As it turns out, every club that is playing men's Olympic soccer will have one game that takes place the day before the opening ceremony. So they can't go to the big parade just yet. And when he and the rest of the men's Olympic team got there, Marshall was amused to find condom dispensers at a kiosk in the Olympic Village. Wow, those Frenchmen, amour on their minds. What Henry found fascinating is that you didn't have to put money in the machine to get the condoms. Now, when he got to where the U.S. athletes were staying, he was a little bit puzzled to find a bowl of condoms in his living quarters, along with brochures on AIDS and STD protection. I mean, one can choose between red, white, or blue, the American national colors, or possibly the French national colors. And Kenny noticed Henry's quizzical look. And Henry told Kenny, hey, you think that we're going to get through all these condoms here? And Kenny says, I intend to. That just might be my bowl. Man, you might have to get your own bowl. Dude, Henry said, what makes you think you're going to get play? Jesus, man, Kenny said, don't you know where you are? I was talking to somebody who was at the London Olympics. Play, think about it. You have the best athletes in the world. Everyone's been working out, training, dieting. Everyone's fucking stressed out, horny as fuck, and they're dying to relax. Hookups will be going on every night. Parties. It's like a sex show. And think about this, dude. You're a fucking American footballer. You don't look like some kind of juiced freak. I mean, you look like a normal person. If you have any game at all, if you can talk without shitting your pants, You can hook up with anybody you want here. I mean, fuck your brains out, which is what I intend to do. Okay. Henry's brain was dazzled with the possibility. Yeah, who's going to hook up with a 17-year-old? Well, I would keep it to myself, man. Kenny said, no one's going to be asking for your driver's license. How many months into your 18? 4. Well, if you play a man's game and you get a man's salary, you should be able to fuck. How come every other 17-year-old can fuck and you can't? I'll tell you something. If you don't fuck anybody while you're here, you will be kicking yourself for the rest of your life. My advice, swimmers, man. They got tight bodies. Besides, you know the assholes on the team are going to ask you who you've been fucking, so it's better to fuck than have to tell a story about it. Henry considered it. This is when he knew the games that took place off the pitch were going to be as important as the games on it. Doors were opening up, and vive la France. And that's the end of this episode. Will Henry find a medal at the 2024 Olympic Games? Will he find love? Will he find lust? Or will he just find an STD? Anyway, if you like what you hear or see, make a comment or hit the like and or subscribe button. Until next time.